Okay, so I'm going to start linking up my random rotation values. So for instance, my rotation seed. So in order for me to do that, I need to know the name. So there we go. The name of the parameter is random rot mult. Yeah? So I'm gonna link that into my expression of my clipping operation. So basically, not into that rotation. I want to sort of have fixed control. I want to put it inside of my direction control. So if I bring up my expression editor, I can just say, okay, what I want to do is I want to influence my random, right? I want to change that random number. That's what I do. I want to give it a random seed. So I'm going to multiply that stamp value, so whatever the 4 value is, with my channel, which is my seed. Yeah. So that will be one level up, right? And what I'm going to be using is random rot mult. So this guy. Yeah. Alright, so let's have a look. If I apply this, I'll just copy this as well. I'll just copy this into the other expression. Well, actually I could just copy the entire expression and change it to cosine again. It's probably easier. Just copy the entire expression, change it to cosine into the Z channel, right? Now let's have a look if that influenced correctly or not. Okay, so we don't want this to be 0 because then our numbers are 0, but anything else than 0 is fine. So as soon as we make it sort of, if we put it in our defaults that it's not 0, it's fine. Okay, so that's working. Now let's do the same for our random position, right? So first of all, our position at the moment is not randomized yet because it's, they're all going through the same values. So let's do that. Let's use our origin now, yeah, to create this randomness. So I'm going to start typing expression in there. So let's build up our expression. And it's going to be something like random value, yeah, and then it'll be using that stamp, right? And what I'm going to be using from that stamp, I'll just have a look there. I'm just going to copy this stamp, which is fine actually. I can just copy all of that and just put it in there as such. Make sure the brackets match up. So now this will generate me a random number between 0 and 1, right, in the X. Yeah? And I'll do the same, apply that, and I'll do the same in the Y. So just copy this, sorry, in the Z. So in the last channel in the Z, I'm not touching the Y at the moment. We won't really need to do that. If we go back up, then now you can see that if I just turn this off, they're not going through the same, the same thing anymore. Now wouldn't it be nice if we can define how much these boundaries really are, right? That'd be quite cool. But we're going to be needing a new parameter to do that, sort of an inner radius and an outer radius. So let's do that, and in the meantime adjust our other sort of options as well. Okay, so let's add this boundary. So I'm just going to add this minimum and maximum boundary. So it's going to be a float vector 2D, right? And I'm going to drag it down. And let's just call this random bounds, and let's call this a bounds minimum maximum. So we kind of know what this will do. Something like this, right? The other thing that I needed to change, right, was my rotation. So I'm going to change my default value of my rotation. So let's have a look. Where is my default? There, 180. And the other thing as well is that if my random rotation, this random rot, is checked, is on, I want this one to be visible. I want it to be enabled. If not, I want to disable it. So I'm just quickly going to put in a little script which will allow me, so basically I'll say I'm going to check this random rot, so random rot. If this is equal to 0, right, then disable it. Otherwise enable it. So that's fine. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna also apply it to these other two, right? So I can just apply this and say 0 is fine, but this needs to be random position. So I'm gonna change this random rot to random pos rather. So if my checkbox, right, is equal to 0, if it's off, then don't show this, disable it. And I also want to apply this to my random bounds, so as such, and that's fine. Just beauty wise, you can just say horizontally join to next parameter, and same thing with these guys, horizontally join, so that the checkboxes are sort of in front of it. I think that's about it, except for my values for my seeds, right? So my seed values should go from 1 to, say, something like 10, and the same thing there. So my range, as long as it's, and I'm going to lock it so it can't go below 0, so let's put something like that. My bounds, they can go between 0 and 1, or they can go negative as well. They're all also allowed to be 0, I believe, but we'll see when we get there. So okay, that's fine. Apply this, and accept. So let's have a look now. So there's my random rotation, there's my rotation seeds. If I just check this, that works, so that's all on or off. Okay, so let's have a look. We'll leave it on for now, and we're gonna jump inside and we're gonna start building up our expression using some of these bounds and using some of our random seeds. So our rotation seed is working, but our position seed is not yet working. So let's have a look. If I just copy this, so copy parameter, jump inside. On my origin, this is where I will want to include this. So I'm just quickly gonna paste it in my Y, but that's just to see how exactly I need to write this. It's like an easy little sort of trick. So that's what I'll be using. I'm gonna cut this from there, delete that channel, don't need it anymore, just wanted to have the name, get my expression editor up, right, and now I can just paste it in there. So there's my randomness, there's my sort of seed value, right, and I'm going to include that in my stamping operation as such. So my random value, this is the stamping value, so this is a number from 1 to 10, multiplied by another number which I randomly define, just if we don't like whatever the random is giving back to us. Okay, so that's good for this one. Let's do the same. Let's just copy that expression, so just accept it, copy the entire thing, and let's put it into the other channel. But one thing I want to change is, instead of the random position in X, I want to change this to Y, so that we've got a different seed from X and Y. So if I just bring this quickly up, you can see over there, all I did was change this X value over there into Y, so I'm using the other seed value. Okay, let's say apply and accept. So the next thing will be, so now we can check if our seeding is working, and our seeding is working over there as I changed it. And notice that I can't change it under 0, and I can change it above 1. Alright, so let's just change these two guys. The reason why I changed them both in a different is otherwise they might start to line up into one of the sort of X, Y, X, Z axis. Okay, so let's use the bound min and max. So same thing, I'm just gonna copy this parameter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this random result that I'll be getting inside of a fit, and I'm gonna use these values to sort of fit it in between, in between those. Okay, so again, I'm back in my origin. I want to know my value. I'm just gonna paste it. So paste the relative reference. Just gonna grab this guy, copy it, or rather cut it, and let's just get rid of him. So delete that channel again, right? In there, bring up an expression editor, and now I'm going to start using this inside of a fit function, right? So let's start typing our fit function. So fit 0 to 1, because I know that my random value goes between 0 and 1. If you need to find your functions, just go to Windows, bring up HScript export, and just type xhelp. This will give you the functions xhelp fit 01. This will give you whatever the function is you're currently researching. So what I want to do is, in say the first parameter, my num, I'm going to input my random number, which returns a value between 0 and 1, and my new minimum will be my inner bound, my new maximum will be my outer bound, so my inner radius, my outer radius. Okay, so let's implement that. So fit 0 to 1. So first argument, right, is my random. So my first argument is going from 0 to 1. My second argument, I'm gonna Control V, paste this. Oops, it's a bit weird. Well, let's just get it in the same way that we got that one. So I'm just gonna grab that guy, paste it in there, and then change this parameter, because I forgot what I called it. No need to remember it, just hover over it. So random bounds x, that's the way it's called, random bounds x. So random bounds x is already there, so that's fine. And then the maximum will be random bounds y. So this has nothing to do with an x and a y coordinate, but this is a minimum and a maximum value. Okay, so the other argument is y. Let's bring this up a little bit. Okay, and I need to close my fit function so that this matches up. I hope it does. Let's have a look. No, it does not, so I need to get rid of this guy. Yeah, and let's have a look. So now this matches up, and so the first argument goes from 0 to 1. This is the minimum radius, this is the maximum radius. And let's apply that. Yeah, and accept. And let's go inside. Let's just have a quick look at our origin, because I've just applied it to the X channel but not yet to the Y, so just Control copy this, paste it over there, and all we need to change now is making sure that our boundary value, again our sort of seeding value, is Y. So let's get rid of that little X and change it to a Y. Okay, so that's working. Apply that and accept it. Let's go back up. Now as you can see, this is quite cool little thingy, is as it is 0, right, as these bounds are 0, you can kind of start to increase, or rather decrease the minimum, increase the maximum, right, and ideally you will want to play with values, something like, I don't know, depending on how close you want your fracturing, but something like -2, +2, this will sort of give you a bigger result, maybe -0.5 and 0.5. This will give you more a sort of localized, fracturing pattern, and everything else should be working as well, so that's fine. The rotation seed as well. Now if we turn this off, right, what do we want to have? Well, if we turn this off, we kind of want to have a uniform splitting going on. If we turn off our random position, we want it to slip back to 0 basically. So the way that we can do that is by including this little checkbox inside of our functions. So let's just say copy parameter, and I'm currently over my checkbox. Copy this parameter, or rather I can hover over it and just see random pos. That's the way it's called, because I'm gonna be referencing that one inside of my expression there, inside of my fit. So I say Alt E, and all of this expression, right, all what I want to do is maybe all the way in the front or something. All I want to do is just reference that channel, so just channel, and the name of it was random pos right there, this guy, and I just want to multiply it. So what is going to happen, right, what's gonna happen is if this guy is 0, right, then all of this will turn into 0, which is fine because we don't want any randomization. Okay, let's just grab this part of the expression, copy it without the F, copy this, and let's put it in the other channel as well. So bring this up, paste it, and there we go. Okay, and let's apply this. For this guy I kind of left a space, let's just clean it up. So that's fine for the origin, but what about the rotations, right? So if I just switch on my random position, you can see now this is taken into account. At the moment this is multiplied by 0, so it'll just all go away, right? So I want to do something similar in a way to the random rotation, but slightly different, right? Because I'm gonna have to recreate a new clipping operation. Okay, so let's just get this clip, and copy it. So Control copy, Control paste. I've got a new clip. Let's just say like this, and I'm gonna create a new switch. and I'm going to use that value to switch between these two. Now what I need to do in the direction is change this from being completely random to being sort of more evenly spread. So in order to do that, so this would be clip, and let's just give it a quick name, random, and this would be clip, sort of even spread. Everything else will still be the same. So in order to make this even spread, I need to get rid of my random. So I'm going to bring up my expression editor again, right? So I'm going to get rid of my random, don't need that anymore. I'm going to get rid of my seed, don't need that. I will be needing to multiply it, but instead of by multiplying it by 180, I want to multiply it by a little bit of 180. How much? Well, that will depend on our number. So basically, if I go up one level, that will depend on this number. So if I just say, probably, I wonder if that works, copy parameter, no, I can't. Just hover over it and just have a look over number range, and that's num range 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this entire thing by channel dot dot num range, oops, forgot my little squiggly things, num range 2, as such, right? So this thing, what I just put in between brackets, will basically give me a ratio, right? And then it'll feed it into the sine, sort of in the sine pattern. So this ratio, a little bit of 180, like one slice of 180, depending on how many numbers I've got. So this will give me 8 sort of slices, multiplied by whatever the current value is, right? And I want to copy this entire thing, so just select everything, copy it, let's apply it, accept, and I want to go back in and I want to apply this one now also into my other channel, to my Z channel, and change this to cosine, as such. And let's have a look at what this is doing. Right, if I look at it, like this, right, then you will see it looks a bit funny because my post transform is not really working. My switch is set to 0, so at the moment I should be having an equal rotation. So I'm going to turn off my position, as such. And note that now my pieces are not random anymore. So I need to, I need to build in my switch. At the moment my switch is not using, but it's all divided up nicely into even pieces. So you could give the user the control to do that if they wanted to. So let's build in our switch now. So let's just say copy this parameter, this random rotation there, go inside, go in our switch and paste it over there. Paste copied relative references, that's fine, right? Note that it is important which is the first input and which is the second input, because this value at the moment is set to 1, right? This random rotation, my checkbox is on, so I want to use this clipping, so which means the first input, sort of the second input, because it starts at 0, right? If my checkbox is set to 0, it will use that one, because 0 is the first input, 1 is the second input. Okay, and I believe that's about it for what we have built in control wise. So if I turn on my random rotation, you can just start to change this. I thought I changed this. I probably didn't change my range, so finally I'm just going to change my range to something like 180. I probably changed this. Default value of 0 should be fine. Something like that. Okay, and apply that, accept it, right? And now I've got a bigger, so I can rotate easily. I can add a random position, whereas the pieces are still sort of evenly. I can change how much I want to change this, so change it like that, change it in the other direction, and I can add random rotation if I wanted to as well. If I don't like it, I can just change it. Let's just put it to something like this, and let's find ourselves a nice one. Maybe this one, or that, something like this. It's fairly even. Okay, so that's it for this kind of lesson. In the next lesson we will be maybe layering it or sort of assigning the random colors and starting to break up the thing into different pieces.